Picture this. You decide you want to open a restaurant. So you go out, you sign this brutal 10-year lease on a prime corner building.
Right, which is already terrifying.
Exactly. And then you buy $50,000 worth of commercial ovens. You hire a full wait staff. You print these beautiful, leather-bound, incredibly expensive menus.
Yeah.
And you do all of this, every bit of it, before you have ever checked if a single person in the neighborhood actually likes the food you cook.
I mean, it sounds completely reckless when you frame it around a physical restaurant like that. You'd be setting yourself up for total financial ruin.
Right.
But what's fascinating is that this exact sequence, building the entire shell before testing the product, that is the default playbook for most first-time e-commerce founders.
It really is. Welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening to this right now, maybe you're thinking about launching a business. Or maybe you already have one and you're trying to figure out why the math just isn't math.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Today, we are extracting the core insights from this highly detailed, brutally honest 2026 guide to building a real business on Shopify. Our mission today is just to cut right through the hype.
Which is much needed.
Definitely. We're looking at the actual costs, the non-negotiable 90-day timeline, and the exact order of operations you need to go from a mere idea to your first 100 paying customers without, as you said, setting yourself up for ruin.
To do that, we really have to start by shifting how we view platforms like Shopify. It is very easy to look at the millions of merchants across 175 countries and just get swept up in the magic of it.
Oh, for sure. You click a few buttons, pick a slick theme, and suddenly you feel like a CEO.
Right. But spinning up a storefront is not the same thing as building a repeatable, profitable business.
Shopify is just the engine. It's the infrastructure. And the guide we're looking at points out that the real value of the platform is that it removes the massive engineering overhead that used to gatekeep regular people from starting businesses. Like, you don't have to build a checkout system from scratch. You don't have to worry about PCI compliance, which, is just the legal framework for safely handling people's credit card data.
Yeah, or DDoS protection.
Yeah.
Where hackers try to crash your site with fake traffic. They handle all that technical defense.
Right.
But they do that so you, the founder, have zero excuses.
Right.
You're freed up to focus entirely on the only three things that actually determine your survival: your product, your audience, and your unit economics.
Which brings us to the very first phase. Because the engineering is handled, you cannot start by picking out brand colors.
No, please don't do that.
You have to start with a reality check. You have to validate before you construct.
Which means answering three incredibly specific, frankly, uncomfortable questions in writing. And the guide emphasizes doing this before you even create a trial account. If you're fuzzy on any of these, your store is going to fail, period.
So what's the first one?
The first question is, who exactly is the customer? And we have to get past demographic cliches here. Saying your target market is busy women is entirely useless.
Yeah, it's just too broad to target.
Right, and it's too broad to craft a compelling message for.
Yeah.
You need to narrow it down to something highly specific, like mid-30s home cooks who already own a cast-iron Dutch oven.
Okay, I love that example. Because if I know my customer specifically uses a cast-iron Dutch oven, I know exactly which subreddits they read.
Exactly.
I know what YouTube channels they watch for recipes. I know what competing products they're already looking at. It basically gives me a map of where to put my message.
Precisely. A specific audience gives you a specific playground. The second prerequisite question forces you to look at unit economics. We'll explore the heavy math a bit later, but...
And it does get heavy.
It does. But you need a back-of-the-napkin understanding of your selling price minus your product costs, your shipping, your packaging, the standard 2.9% plus 30-cent payment processing fee.
Which everyone forgets about.
Always. And what you realistically think it will cost to acquire a customer through ads.
And the third question is basically the ultimate gut check. Can you commit to a 90-day timeline?
Yeah, this is huge.
Because despite what the dropshipping gurus on TikTok will claim, this is not a 7-day path to a beach house. Building a stable, predictable flow of orders takes 8 to 12 weeks of consistent, unglamorous work.
We're talking 1 to 2 hours daily.
Right. Committing a real budget for testing, and most importantly, having the psychological patience for a very slow first month.
That psychological patience is where most founders break. They expect this grand opening line around the block. When it doesn't happen, they panic. They start changing their product or slashing prices.
But if you can honestly commit to those 3 prerequisites, you earn the right to move to the validation phase, which is arguably my favorite strategy in the entire text.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It's the 7-day, $50 validation test. Going back to my restaurant analogy, this is where you just set up a little folding table on the sidewalk with a plate of your food to see if anyone passing by actually wants a bite.
It is the cheapest insurance policy a new founder can buy. So instead of building a full catalog and spending weeks on a store, you use Shopify's starter plan, which is just $5 a month, or like literally any free landing page tool.
Keep it super simple.
Exactly. You create a single web page, one product photo, a compelling headline, the price, and an email capture form that just says, sign up to be notified when we launch.
So no cart, no checkout whatsoever, just an email field.
Right. Then you take your $50 budget and run a very basic ad test on Meta, TikTok, or Reddit. Your goal is to drive roughly 500 to 1,000 people to that one page. And here is where the math makes the decision for you. The guide introduces the 3% rule.
Let's break that down.
So when you have cold traffic people who don't know you, brought in by a $50 ad landing on a page with a clear product and a price, you're measuring how many of them are willing to hand over their email address. If your opt-in rate is above 3%, that is your green light.
It's a mathematical signal that the market actually desires what you're building.
Exactly. But if it's below 1%,
If it's below 1%, you just stop. Do not build the store. Do not order inventory.
yeah, a sub 1% conversion rate means either your offer is fundamentally unappealing or you're putting it in front of the wrong audience. You have to fix one of those two variables and run the test again.
Okay, let's say I run this test and I just crush it. I get a 4% opt-in rate. I've got 50 emails from people who genuinely want my product. What is the actual utility of those emails right now?
Well, what would you normally do?
My instinct would be to just sit on that list and then blast them with a launch announcement in a month.
And that would be a massive missed opportunity.
Yeah.
The source gives a brilliant instruction for this exact moment. You don't just hold those emails. You reach out personally to the very first 5 people who opted in.
Okay.
You email them or DM them if you have their social handle, and you ask one highly specific question. What almost stopped you from signing up today?
Wait, really? So I'm actively asking them for their hesitations? I'm looking for the friction?
Yes, because they are the ones who overcame that friction. When they reply and say, I almost didn't sign up because I was worried the material wouldn't be machine washable, or I wasn't sure if it would fit my specific model of laptop.
Oh, wow.
Right. Those exact phrases become your future website copy. You are letting your most hesitant customers write your marketing for you. You use their literal words to build out your FAQ section and product descriptions to reassure the next wave of buyers.
That is so smart. That shifts the entire dynamic from guessing what people want to hear to just echoing their own needs back to them. I love that.
It's incredibly effective.
Yeah. So, okay, we've spent our $50. The test proves people want the product, and we know exactly how to talk to them. But we can't fulfill 50 orders with a landing page. We need infrastructure. And we need to price this thing so we don't accidentally bankrupt ourselves.
Which brings us to the math of survival. Sourcing and pricing have to be locked down before you build the store. If your unit economics are broken, a beautiful website will literally just help you lose money faster.
Yeah, that's a painful reality. The guide breaks down 5 distinct sourcing models, and when you look at them sequentially, you really start to see exactly how risk and reward trade off.
Let's run through them.
First, you have print on demand. You design a shirt or a mug, someone buys it, and a third party prints and ships it. 0 upfront cost for you.
Right, but because the supplier takes all the inventory risk, they take most of the profit. Your margin is usually stuck between like 15 and 30%.
Yeah, it's a fantastic model for testing design concepts, but it requires massive volume to generate meaningful revenue. Then you have drop shipping.
Similar concept, but you're selling pre-existing products from overseas suppliers.
Right. You might spend up to $200 upfront testing samples just to make sure the quality isn't terrible. Margins here hover between 10 and 25%. It's highly competitive, but it allows for rapid iteration if you spot a trend.
Moving up the risk ladder, we hit wholesale. This is where you buy other brands' products in bulk to resell. You're laying out maybe $500 to $3,000 up front.
But because you're taking on the inventory risk, your margins improve to 30 to 50%.
Exactly. Then there's private label. You find a manufacturer, you tweak an existing product, and you put your brand on it. This is a much heavier lift. It usually requires $1,000 to $10,000 up front for minimum order quantities.
But it unlocks 40 to 65% margins. And you're actually building business equity because you own the brand.
Right. And finally, handmade or made to order. If you're crafting leather wallets or custom jewelry, your upfront costs might just be $50 to $500 in raw materials. This yields the absolute highest margins, like 50 to 80%. But the trade-off is your personal time.
It's inherently difficult to scale.
Yeah, very. But regardless of which of those 5 models you choose, the pricing formula remains the core factor in your survival. A staggering number of new founders just look at what competitors are charging, or they pick a price that, feels fair.
Oh man, feels fair is a mathematical death sentence.
It really is.
Let's talk about why. It makes me think of a car's fuel efficiency. If top-line revenue, the total amount of money flowing into your store, is how fast the car is going, your contribution margin is your miles per gallon.
I love that analogy.
Right, you could be driving 100 miles an hour doing massive revenue numbers, but if you're only getting 2 miles to the gallon, you're going to run out of gas and stall long before you reach your destination.
That is the perfect way to look at it. Top-line revenue is just a vanity metric. Contribution margin is what pays your rent. The guide defines contribution margin as your selling price, minus the landed cost of the product, minus shipping, packaging, that 2.9% plus 30-cent processing fee, and your target customer acquisition cost.
Your ad spend.
Exactly. What is left over in your hand after all of that is the contribution margin.
And the targets the source gives are non-negotiable. For physical products, you need an absolute minimum of a 30% contribution margin. For digital products, it should be 60% or higher.
Because if your margin is thinner than 30%, your business is so fragile. One week where ad costs spike on Facebook or one bad batch of returns will completely wipe out your profit for the entire month. You'll be doing all this work just to break even.
To hit that 30% safety net, the guide relies on a classic retail formula for physical goods, the Keystone plus 50% rule. You take your landed cost, which is what it costs to manufacture the item and ship it to your doorstep, and you basically multiply it by 3.
So if a custom ceramic mug costs you $10 to make and get to your house, you must list it on your store for $30.
And my instinct right there, and I think the instinct for a lot of people, is to say, wow, a $20 markup on a $10 item, that feels greedy.
It's not greed. It's literally the cost of existing in a competitive market. That $20 gap does not go straight into your bank account. It has to absorb the credit card fees, the packaging, the inevitable cost of running ads to find the customer.
And the cost of replacing items lost in the mail.
Exactly. If you drop below a 2.5 to 3 times multiplier, the guide explicitly states you are no longer running a business. You are running a charity.
A charity that you're funding with your own stress. This is exactly why a store having a $10,000 month at a 5% margin is mathematically failing, while a store doing $4,000 a month at a 30% margin is actually building wealth.
Yep. Once you understand that math and you've validated the product with your $50 test, you finally have the green light to build the physical store. But even here, the guide forces strict discipline.
Right, because now that we know what we're doing, the temptation is to spend a month making the store look like a Fortune 500 company.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Instead, the guide outlines a strict 3-day limit for a lean build.
Because every day you spend agonizing over the exact shade of blue for your add to cart button is a day you aren't acquiring a customer. The goal is functionality and trust, not perfection.
The lean build is an 8-step process, and it is almost absurdly cheap. You grab the standard Shopify promo, which is usually $1 a month for the first 3 months. You select a free theme. They specifically recommend Horizon as the newest standard, or Dawn for extreme reliability.
But here's a crucial detail. You don't just list one item with a generic stock photo.
Right. A store with one item and a stock photo just screams fly-by-night scam. Even if you only have one core product, you need to flesh out the catalog. You add 5 to 15 SKUs.
And just to clarify for anyone new to the acronym, a SKU is just a stock keeping unit. It's an individual item.
Like a red shirt in medium is one SKU, the red shirt in large is the second SKU.
Right. You populate the store so it looks like a real destination. And you use a modern smartphone to take 3 real, well-lit photos of each item. You don't need a professional studio. The modern consumer actually trusts slightly raw, user-generated style photos way more than hyper-polished white background renders.
That makes total sense. And that authenticity requirement extends heavily to the About page. The guide notes that new, unknown stores have a significantly higher conversion rate when they lean into being small.
Don't write 3 pages of corporate jargon about synergistic
Yeah,
paradigms.
please don't. Write 2 honest paragraphs explaining who you are, why you got frustrated enough to create this product, and where you're located. Just be a human being.
But as you're building this clean, authentic, simple site, you're going to encounter what the text calls the app trap. You click over to the Shopify App Store, and there are tens of thousands of plugins promising to double your sales.
It is so incredibly tempting. You see a plugin for a spinning discount reel and a countdown timer that says only 3 left in stock, and a loyalty points program. It really feels like you're doing real business by installing them.
It's a psychological trap. You're substituting the hard work of finding customers with the easy dopamine hit of clicking Install. The guide warns that every paid app adds recurring monthly overhead that eats your precious contribution margin.
And worse, every app injects code into your site, which slows down your page load speed.
So what is the actual approved list of apps for launch?
It is ruthlessly short. Stick to the essentials. Shopify email is free for up to 10,000 sends. Judge.me offers a fantastic free tier for collecting and displaying reviews. Shopify Inbox gives you free live chat so you can talk to early visitors. And the free Google and YouTube integrations so your products can show up in search results. That's literally all you need to launch.
Now here is a part of the text that really challenged my assumptions. Shopify makes it delightfully frictionless to just enter your social security number and start taking money as a sole proprietor.
Yeah, it's almost too easy.
Right. So if I'm just testing the waters with a lean build, why on earth do I need to worry about forming an LLC, getting an employer identification number, and opening a separate bank account right away?
This is a critical distinction between a hobby and a business. You don't need all the heavy legal scaffolding on day one of the validation test, but the guide provides a very precise timeline for when it becomes non-negotiable. First, if you're in the U.S., you absolutely need a home state sales tax permit before your very first real sale. You cannot mess around with state tax liabilities.
Okay, state tax permit before sale number 1. What about the rest of it?
The LLC, the EIN, and the dedicated business bank account become urgent within the first 60 days of consistent sales. And you have to do them in a specific order.
The order matters.
Yeah. You file the business entity first. The moment that is approved, you pull your EIN from the IRS website, which takes 10 minutes and is free. Armed with those 2 documents, you open a business checking account. Finally, you go into Shopify and route all your payouts directly to that new account.
Why does that order matter so much?
Because of a legal concept called the corporate veil. The whole point of an LLC is to protect your personal assets, your personal savings, your car, your house. If someone decides to sue you because a product malfunctioned or got lost.
Oh, okay.
But if you're commingling funds, if Shopify is depositing business revenue into your personal checking account where you buy your groceries, a lawyer can easily argue that the LLC is a sham. Separating the money streams completely is what actually provides the legal armor.
That makes perfect sense. The separation is the protection. Now, we have a legally sound, beautifully lean store. Before we take down the password page and let the public in, there's one final non-negotiable step: the test order.
Oh, yeah. You cannot assume the tech works flawlessly just because it looks pretty. You need to run a real $1 transaction using your own personal credit card to see exactly what the customer sees.
You also use Shopify's bogus gateway, which is basically just a built-in testing mode that lets you type in a fake test credit card number to simulate a successful purchase and a declined purchase.
You have to do this to catch the silent killers. Did the shipping rate calculate correctly? Did the sales tax apply? Did the post-purchase thank you email actually send? You want to find those broken links yourself, not wait for your first real customer to get frustrated and abandon their cart.
Right. So the test order is successful, the tech works, we remove the password page, the store is officially live. This kicks off the final phase of the guide, the 90-day grind. The goal is to get from 0 to our first 100 paying customers. How do we actually do that without burning through our remaining cash?
Well, the primary reason new stores die at 0 customers is a lack of focus. The founder gets anxious and tries to be everywhere. They post on TikTok, they run a few Facebook ads, they make a Pinterest board, and they try to write SEO blog posts all in the exact same week.
Which is exhausting.
And counterproductive. The guide is definitive here. Spreading a small budget and limited time across multiple platforms guarantees failure. You must master one single acquisition channel first.
To structure this, the source outlines a customer ladder. A very specific progression for those first 100 sales. Customers 1 through 10 are almost always going to come from your personal network. You are sending direct messages, not mass posts, to friends, family, and colleagues.
And to be clear, you aren't doing this just to beg for money. Getting those first 10 orders from people you know is how you shake out the final logistical bugs. It's how you practice packing the boxes and printing the labels in a low-stakes environment.
Exactly. Once you survive the first 10, customers 10 through 50 come from mastering one organic social channel. The playbook here is brutal consistency. You pick one platform, say TikTok or Instagram Reels, and you post daily for 30 consecutive days before you are allowed to judge the results or change strategies.
For customers 50 to 100, you start stacking on passive channels. You leverage those free Google Shopping listings we talked about because organic search traffic builds slowly but compounds over time.
The guide also outlines a fantastic micro-influencer hack for this stage. You don't hunt for celebrities. You find 10 creators in your specific niche who have between 3,000 and 30,000 followers.
So not massive audiences.
Right, micro-influencers. You don't offer them massive cash contracts. You reach out, compliment their work, and offer to send them your product for free with no strings attached, hoping for an honest review or unboxing.
Notice what is missing from that entire ladder to 100 customers. Paid ads. The guide enforces a strict sequencing rule. Paid ads always come last.
Why? I mean, if I have the money, why not just buy the traffic?
Because if you don't know exactly what imagery, what headline, and what angle gets a stranger to buy your product organically, running paid ads is just paying to amplify a broken message. You only launch Meta or Google ads after your organic content has shown you what actually converts.
That is so true. Let's ground this in reality by looking at the budget the guide lays out. If you're launching a print-on-demand store or selling digital templates, you can legitimately get to launch for under $100.
But if you're building a physical product brand where you hold inventory, the realistic floor is $500 to $1,000.
That is the honest math of direct-to-consumer businesses. Shopify's monthly fee is almost negligible. It's the inventory, the packaging, and eventually the cost of acquiring strangers on the internet that will dominate your capital.
And as you deploy that capital, the guide issues a massive warning about the timeline. They call it the flatline phase. If you graph your revenue for the first 90 days, weeks 1, 2, and 3 usually look like a flat line. Zeros across the board.
This is the danger zone. It's entirely normal, but it's exactly where most founders convince themselves the business is a failure and quit. What they don't understand is the compounding math of e-commerce.
Right. The real growth doesn't come from a magical spike in day one sales. It comes from growing your email list, which, as we discussed, is your highest margin channel because you don't have to pay Mark Zuckerberg to talk to them.
Exactly.
And it comes from repeat customers. The guide suggests aiming for a 15% repeat purchase rate by month 6.
Those mechanics, email marketing and customer retention, simply take time to mature. They don't show up in your dashboard until week 6, 8, or 10. You have to endure the flat line to reap the compound interest.
So bringing this all together, building a real business on Shopify, according to this 2026 playbook, is not about the sexy launch tactics. It is entirely about embracing the unglamorous disciplines. It's validating your specific audience with a $50 landing page test before you buy inventory.
It's ruthlessly calculating your contribution margins so you don't accidentally run a charity.
It's setting up your legal scaffolding in the precise order to protect yourself. And it's committing to a 90-day grind on a single channel.
It is the exact opposite of spinning up a theme and waiting for money to fall from the sky. And I think the source material leaves us with a truly profound framing for this entire journey. It explicitly states Shopify itself becomes invisible after the first week. It's the rails, not the train.
Wow, that is such a powerful distinction.
If the platform is merely the invisible infrastructure, the steel tracks on the ground, then the true value of your business is entirely separate from the software. Your highest margin asset is the audience you build and the trust you earn.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and building a store, you really have to ask yourself a hard question. Are you spending your days agonizing over the color of the rails, obsessing over plugins and theme settings? Or are you doing the grueling, necessary work of building a train, a distinct brand and a direct audience that is powerful enough to travel under its own steam, regardless of whose track it happens to be running on?